What's up, guys? It's John with National Sports Entertainment, and I wanted to go into two different stories, basically the same story intertwined. This one I found interesting. I'm surprised we've reached the day, to be honest. So, as I scroll through this, you guys will see something interesting regarding gambling, golf, and bettors. And it's something that I understood that a lot of people now believe football's rigged. And I had expected basketball would move in that direction and then baseball. But it's interesting the amount of people on Twitter that are really saying that it's ridiculous how between the weather delays, between what you're going to see what happened with Max Homa in a second, and a lot of other interesting things. There's videos with the magnets, just like basketball, only they're a little more convincing. What I can say is I've noticed, and I'll go into what I've noticed in a second as far as in golf, but I got my last prediction wrong, obviously. I had one of the guys three-peating, Cantley or Lucas Glover. Then I saw the odds on Cantley, and it made sense that he probably wasn't going to do it. And sure enough, what happened? The winner of round one is Rory. Going to get a lot of money on Rory. The winner of round two is Homa. Get some money on him, right? Then round three, the leader Scotty, and all the way up until he just sells it at the very end. He's the favorite. So, no, Hovland, I'm sure, was not getting. I looked at the handle number. He was not getting much of the handle. He was getting about what all the other guys in the mid tiers were getting. That 3 to 5% maybe. But anyway, he wound up winning it, of course. And this brings me to what I believe to be the easiest layup in the history of this channel, and maybe this will age terribly. It's not a pick I personally had up until I saw the Vegas line, but let's go into this. So they're going into how it's been 46 tournaments over 11 and a half months. We've reached the end of the line for the PGA Tour schedule and the playoffs, and then they're going to talk about the Ryder Cup. But what's interesting is you see how they go into Scheffler, who begins the week at 10 under, leading by 2 in a good. So Scheffler's going to be 10 under par, obviously, and then Rory's going to be 7, and you're going to have Hovland at 8, and you're going to have Rahm at 6, and there's going to be guys at 4, 3, etc. Now, before I get into that, I want to go into this right here. Playing the 17th hole in the final pairing during the third round of the BMW Championship, Max Homa stood over a short birdie putt. He heard a nearby fan talking about winning $3 if he missed it. Very interesting too, $3. I guess people get excited for that, but just sounds a little forced. Then heard him yell, "Pull it," as he stroked the putt. It went into the hole, but this shined the spotlight on what continues to become an issue. So what I find interesting is I don't think that was just a fan. I think, if anything, they have agents out there doing these types of things. And I don't even think they need them, but almost like they have referees. I think they have these type of agents. Because to me, a fan doing this for $3, it just wouldn't make sense. I really don't think that someone's putting $3 and then making themselves look like an asshole just so they can win that $3. But either way, I do think they're kind of letting us know these type of shenanigans are going to happen, which might explain golfers missing routine shots. Right, Scotty just sold 2 easy shots. There's no distraction, but we might start hearing them use that as an excuse. So they actually go in and defend the fan completely. Essentially, they basically say, "What are you going to do? There's nothing, you can't go to these extreme measures. So just let it be. The fan's fine." So I find that interesting. They're just going into the different reasons you can't do much against it. But I think, again, they're just trying to, do their absolute best to distance themselves from the gambling. So it's just some crazy fans screwing things up. It's not, they can't possibly be messing up. And I think that all the leagues are following this script. Now, again, if we've watched the last couple tournaments, to me, there's no doubt who's winning this tournament. And I don't like it because I'm getting horrible odds on it. So I'd love to say it's going to be Jon Rahm. And I'll tell you a theory for Jon Rahm that is interesting. Alcaraz just beat Djokovic, obviously, becoming the guy basically in tennis. Not just, he actually just lost to him, but the last major represents Spain. I've been going into international appeal. Of course, it's gonna happen in golf. That's probably why Hovland just won. And why, instead of 90% of the guys being from the U.S., now they're represented everywhere across the continents. Now, Jon Rahm represents Spain, obviously, and Rory McIlroy, and you can throw Fitzpatrick in there, he can make a run, but Rory McIlroy, who's last year's winner, it represents UK. Spain just beat the England, and they beat Sweden before that. I think they beat Sweden. But either way, they beat England. Spain beat England in the World Cup, in the female World Cup. I do think it's all tied together. So a lot of me does like Jon Rahm for that reason. Like, okay, is it going to be Spain beating the UK again? He also never won it before, so I love him for that, and I love him for the odds. That being said, there's no way, especially some person on Reddit had a really, really nice take on this. And I'm actually going to show it to you guys because I thought it was beautiful. I just thought the way he went into it was perfect. So he's a professional sports rig. And not to bore you guys, but I think you'll like this because it just basically, I think, puts what we're all thinking in a universally great assertion, the way he puts it. So a professional sports rig, yes, they are. And it isn't called rigging, it's called balancing. Let me veer off point to make my point clearer. We know about the financial market being rigged. I'm just going to paraphrase to make it quicker. But has that stopped people from investing heavily? No, not at the financial market, and I'm talking stocks. Forex are all manipulated and rigged. What makes you think a less valuable market, such as sports betting, isn't? So, very obvious point. We have way too much concentration and coordination in stocks. It happens. We see it in crypto now. Why would it not happen in sports gambling, where it's essentially the same thing? People like to shove their head in the sands when confronted with these facts. Corruption in sports betting is quickly forgotten as soon as it's uncovered. If you heard it once, then it's no longer news, I guess. It's clearly open for you to see, and I think that's why it has persisted. An open secret is not often shocking when re-examined. Let's blame it on the gambling addiction that most people deny being a victim. So, all of these things are true. It's cognitive dissonance. If you really think about it, there's there's more of a case for it being rigged than not. Now let's go into why. So it's up to the big boys puppeting. I think he meant puppeteering, but maybe puppeting's the word too. Sporting events to keep a sealed lips when an outsider tries to influence the outcome of any of these games. He or she, or even they, become the scapegoats and the perfect example of how not to go about and how not to get caught. Again, this is Tim Donahue. This is exactly what happened. So I really like this read. But is everything rigged? Yes, it's called gambling mafia for a reason. And obviously, the mafia has a hand in it. They still do. You can look into Michael Francesi. The mafia and these sports leagues go hand in hand. They're the Chicago Black Sox, Chicago Mafia. It started a long time ago, and it's not like they just left. How do you think these teams are able? This is what people bring. This is what I bring up all the time when they're like, "Oh, how do players?" They must get paid a lot of money to do these things. How do you think these teams are able to cough up those large player signing fees during the transfer windows? Mind you, these fees have been rising alongside the interest in sports betting. So it's obvious when you make a ton of money from kickbacks from being with these books, you can pay players a lot more. Is it a coincidence? You tell me. Do you think the seat tickets can cover those expenses? How about salaries? Do you think those appear from thin air? Besides viewing rights and permissions, most teams get their sponsorships from, you guessed it, bookmakers. And we know this now. We see it being shoved in our face. We're Action Network, and they're saying bet on DraftKings, FanDuel. Oh, you may think you already know where I'm going, but you have no idea how dirty it gets. While billions of dollars, pounds, and euros exchange hands legally, something far sinister is at play beneath those big announcements. I'm not saying I know everything that happens afterwards, but I know that there is a form of synergy between the big brands and the league organizers to achieve a common goal, and that is to make more money. George Carlin had a great quote when people would get on him because he would talk about different theories, and they'd say, "Oh, it's a conspiracy theory." He'd say something to the effect, I believe it was, when you have people with common interest, you don't need an official conspiracy when common interests align. These people went to the same country clubs. These people went to the same schools, same alma maters. They work in the same fields. They know what they want, and they can get it without having official conspiracy theory meetings. Bookies make more money. More money is returned, invested into the leagues and the teams. It goes beyond advertising those bookmaking companies. So directing the outcomes of some games to offset their books, aka balancing is the main goal. Remember, if everyone won their bets, then the bookies would be out of business in no time. And this is true even with the juice. If the honest best person won every fight, it wouldn't even be close. And Jake Paul kind of went into this. Jake Paul said how he has his own sports betting app, by the way, and people used this betting app to bet on his fight. And he went into how it was like the most bet on boxing event in history, and how most people had him winning by knockout, or the people that didn't had Diaz winning by decision. And he didn't say that's why he made it where he won by decision, but he basically did. So, a lot of these things line up, but I found this very interesting. So, just to be clear, they don't manipulate every game. This is something I've gone into. I think they have like 25% of the games. He says 10 to 18, probably more accurate, where they just have the better team win. To keep it fresh, and because they don't need to, it'd be too obvious. So 10 to 18% of each fixture is sufficient to achieve their goal. There's a lot of money to be made from targeting accumulated parlays than single games, and the bookmakers can see that. I have a thing called parlay killers. There are certain ones where people are just going to have. We have the Steelers, for example, playing the Niners in week 1. +3 is the Steelers. A parlay killer is going to be the Niners when they don't cover, because you have 80% of the people on that game. So now imagine this. If you were left all games to their natural outcome, which we don't know what could happen, nor do the books. They shouldn't, at least. Most games would end with the favorite winning, and if not all their fixtures, even with the short odds adjusted to protect the bookies, is that profitable. Refs are not usually kept in the loop. I've gone into this. The refs cannot go rogue. Billion-dollar owners are not going to let these guys go rogue. The ones that are have to sign the same NDA. The one Tim signed and then came out on, and they went against him on, because they all sign it. Everything is organized, so don't think everything hasn't been thought out carefully. Hey, we're talking about billions of dollars here. Now try and observe the number of games you feel have been manipulated or scripted, and you'll most likely be correct that we were, in fact, manipulated. Remember, it's all entertainment. It's legally sports entertainment. If you've been a victim of this in the past, I'm sure you've summed it up to dumb luck, but is it? Why do you think you lost a bet when the odds are in your favor? Favor lose once in a while, but against a much weaker team, how come? Well, there are variables to be considered, but none of them can explain the phenomenon except balancing. Of course, remember 90% of bets are placed before the game starts, so that has given the league orienters all the data to work with ahead of time. And they have the analytics, so they probably have an idea what live is going to do too. Ensuring that the eventual outcomes favors the bookies is up to the individual managers of the teams whose fixtures ought to have predetermined outcome. So they're almost, like, in my opinion, like brokers here, where they're just getting a fee for being the middleman. That being said, you can now bury your head in the sand again, but if you still don't catch my drift, remember there's people that still think WWE fights are actually real. I repeat, it's all entertainment, all scripted, it's very realistic, but it's nonetheless. So, and I've gone into how I think these days WWE seems more realistic than sports betting. And then this is something brought up my Discord a lot. People do really well on my Discord from it. You have an advantage betting on live games. Try that and see for yourself. You can determine if this is something conspiracy or just reality. So I thought that was a great read. I wanted to go into that. I didn't want to make it too long, but I think it's a great read because right here is the reason. We have Scotty Scheffler in a 30-man tournament getting just over 50% odds, like 50-50 chance. So he's 1.5 to 1, right? 1.6 to 1. To me, that's absolutely insane. And it's all the confirmation I know that he's going to win this tournament. There's no way, and I just went into all the different reasons that I believe in this individual, and so many people believe that there's no way the PGA nor other sports would allow a random outcome because people can make a lot of money that way. There's no way that they're going to pay these guys that are getting 40 to 1. So Victor Hovland, he's getting like 5 to 1, maybe. Russell Henley's getting 80 to 1. Okay, he's like 3 or 4 strokes back. So he's gonna be 6 strokes behind, 6 or 7 behind Scotty, but he's gonna be 3 or 4 up on par. Fleetwood, 25,000 plus 25,000 because again he's like 8 strokes back on Scheffler. So it sounds bad, but let's really think about it. What did Scheffler just do? In a matter of 9 holes in half a round, this man was able to blow. I think he had like a 9, almost his 10-hole lead on Hovland. There wasn't quite that much, but it was a pretty big lead on Hovland, and he blew it, and he lost by 2, and he putted like terrible at the end. So Obviously, he was putting bad on purpose. He blew it on purpose. But to me, that's why this is a perfect storm for Scotty to win. He had a near finish last year with Rory. Rory beat him, though, when he was 6 back. So Rory's 6 back, he comes back and beats Scotty. Scotty just blows another lead. But for some reason, Vegas is saying, yeah, he's 50-50 to win. We don't think he's going to blow a lead this time, even though Hovland's only 2 strokes back going into round 1. But when he was 7 strokes back or whatever it was, and on the last 9 holes, and he blew it, we think that was just luck. Like, it makes no sense to me. So, in my opinion, this is just complete icing on the cake. Scotty should be plus 250. Yeah, he's 10 strokes back, but you have to remember he's only 10 strokes back on a handful of people. He's 3 strokes up on, not back, he's 3 strokes up on Rory, who again beat him 6 strokes back last year. So, to me, this makes absolutely no sense, again, unless they know something. So, you have Rahm, who's 4 strokes back, and he's getting 9-1. The public's going to love that. I would love that. I want to pick him. But I'm going to just stick with logic here and not pick Rahm. Russell Henley's a Georgia guy. He might make a run, but he's not winning. None of these guys are winning. I really would be shocked if Scotty Scheffler did not win this tournament. I really would. Now, maybe Rory, just so he could beat Tiger in the most open wins, he would be, I think, ahead 4-3. He might already be ahead of Tiger, actually. I think it might be 3-2. I'm not sure. But either way, I think this is an Alcaraz-Djokovic moment, a passing of the torch from Rory to Scotty. And also, Rahm was one for so many days. Scotty's been one for like 4 days. It'd be really fun, like weird and just odd if Rahm beat him or Rory beat him and then Scotty was not number 1. It would make him look really weak. And after how bad he just looked, I don't get this plus 160. I don't get it. I don't even think it's close to right. I was expecting like plus 250, 300. Again, the minus 10 is very deceiving. I don't like... Yes, he's up 10 on a lot of guys, but he's also only up 5, 6 on guys that in one round, there's always one player that does that minus, that goes 6, 7 under par. So there's a very good chance at the end of the first round, Scotty's not the leader, or it's very close. It's within a couple, a bunch of guys are within a couple strokes. Again, he's only up 2 on the guy that just is playing the hottest golf of his life, and 3 on McIlroy, who beat him down double. So none of it makes sense to me. It does make sense because I think it's rigged, but it does make sense, assuming that it's not rigged. His numbers don't make sense. It's almost like they want Scotty's winning, but they don't want people getting him. They don't want people getting 250, 300, what he should be getting, in my opinion. Him, Rory, these other guys theoretically should be getting a little bit longer odds. This is probably I would think the shortest odds to win an Open since Tiger, because or maybe even before that, ever. Because again, a 30-man tournament, when you have again a lot of guys that are not 10 strokes behind them, they're within 4 or 5 strokes, and you have 4 rounds. So you're talking a stroke a round. It just doesn't add up to me. So I do, if you absolutely don't want to bet on Scheffler, that's fine. Rahm, I do like the Rahm McIlroy possibility. I like Russell Henley because he's in Georgia, so I might put a couple bucks on him. But Scotty Scheffler's the way. I think he's winning, and I was wrong on the last one. But again, I think they do a theme. Ricky Fowler lost in the a couple tournaments, but they kept pushing how, he's right there, right away from his big win. And then like in the Rocket Mortgage Classic, he got it done. They had Harman with the same story, and then he got it done. Rahm won the Spanish Open. I think it was the Spanish Open. So I look back on the tournaments, and a lot of them have been pretty fairy tale-esque, and I don't think it's going to be any different here. I think Scotty's going to win. They're going to say he finally got his first tour victory. Rory passed the torch to him after blowing this last BMW championship and after blowing it last year. Scotty finally gets redemption. The magnets will be on. Look into the magnet videos. They're real. You'll see the balls moving like remote control cars, or just pick up momentum when there's no slope, etc. It's very, very interesting. So I wouldn't be surprised if Scotty... What I will say is maybe after day one, because they wanted to make it look like more of an underdog thing, it might be closer. You might get better odds. But Vegas also likes the winner to win by 4 strokes or more. So there's a good chance Scotty might just wallop the field here. So my pick is Scotty to win the whole thing. And I just figured I would put this out because I thought that read was interesting. They're going into the gambling and how bettors are, quote, influencing the game. And you can see they're not really talking about just picking Scotty outright. You know, they're not suggesting that as a pick. And I wonder why. I think it's because they understand that they don't want people on Scotty. I'd be surprised if he got 5% of the handle with, you know, with these kind of odds. They're just awful. Unless someone's picking him to win the 72 holes without the 10-stroke advantage, which he's probably not going to do that. He'll probably win because of the advantage. But it'll be interesting. Like I said, I think it'll come down to him taking the mantle from Rory. And, yeah, I think it's a pretty predictable outcome. For the Gematria guys, Scotty A. Scheffler is ninth. It's like 19, 119, obviously 19191. There was a recent thing showing the purse, and it's interesting because it was 18 million, but then I saw another article showing it was 19 million. So we'll see. I mean, might be a reach, but I know sometimes the Gematria guys ask for something. But it is, again, to me, the most interesting thing is when Vegas is just telling us we think Scheffler's going to win, despite really nothing evident showing us that he should be this big of a favorite. So I think this is about the easiest, layup that I've had on the channel thus far. Again, it might age terribly. I just can't imagine he doesn't win when you take everything into account. So take care, everybody, and happy earnings.